Hi, I'm Karen Katz, writing as Karen Tintori, the book Unto the Daughters. And I'm here today, very excited to speak with Barry Franklin about his new book, GPS for Success: Skills, Strategies, and Secrets of Super Achievers, and talk about alliteration. That's a fantastic title.
Thank you for the compliment.
You're welcome. Barry, can you tell us in one sentence what the book is about?
Yeah, Karen, if you asked me what was the purpose of you really writing this book, the purpose was to provide, I'd say, one-stop shopping to young people. And I'm defining young people as 15 to 35 years of age, regarding the most proven and practical recommendations for achieving career success. That's the single most important reason that I wrote this book. And another reason that I wrote it is because the stuff in this book, GPS for Success, is not normally taught in college curricula or university studies. These are practical things that I learned and I studied over the last 4 decades.
Often it seems that curricula do not, they might prepare somebody to know a subject, but they don't often prepare them to go out and practice and make a living with what they've learned. So I think
I,
this will be very helpful.
I agree with you 100%. When you talk about collaboration, relationships with others, speaking, writing, these kinds of things typically aren't taught in the university curriculum. So you're exactly right.
Where do you go to write? And do you have any quirks? Did you get any writer's block you had to overcome?
I got in the habit very early on of getting up early. So I typically am up by 4:30 in the morning. I'll have a cup of coffee. I got a miniature dachshund lying in the kitchen next to me. I'm sitting at the kitchen table. My poor wife hasn't used the kitchen table for years because it's my study and we eat on a little counter. So I use the kitchen table for my writing. My computer's there, my articles are there. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I preface my writing with a cup of coffee, and I go from there. I adhere to the philosophy: early to bed, early to rise makes one healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I oftentimes also cite Ernest Hemingway, who won a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954. And he was once asked for him, what was the secret? And he said, I get up early in the morning, I'm freshest early in the morning, and I can write best at that time. So I adopted that. For the most part, I'll write at other times, but most of the writing is early in the morning.
How did you get into writing? I know that you've edited a number of books, and I'm wondering what got you started as a writer and editor.
Yeah, my real life job is director of preventive cardiology and rehabilitation at Beaumont Hospital, where I've been here for the last 37 years. But I have to share with you my passion for decades now has been studying highly successful people in all walks of life. Um, Basically, I looked at what makes some people really thrive as opposed to merely survive. So that got my interest. And then there were several books over the years that really captivated my passion, my secondary passion, so to speak, which was studying highly successful people. One of the early ones was and How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. A second one was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Rhonda Byrne's basic premise was you become what you think about. So the more you think about it, you attract things that you need to make that reality happen. Thirdly, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The premise of that book, as you probably well know, is establish a plan, write a plan. You can follow that plan and you'll achieve almost anything you want in life. And the book that really had one of the greatest impacts on me was a book by Jack Canfield, who, as you well know, is
Oh, yes.
co-author for Chicken Soup for the Soul, which has sold well over 500 million copies. And he wrote the Success Principles, and I actually used that book as a reference for a course I taught called GPS for Success for 5 years at Central Michigan University, which was #1 ranked, and the kids loved it. And I realized at that time I was onto something big because people often called my course the missing course.
Fabulous.
Mhm.
So was your coursework the groundwork for writing this book?
Yeah, the course, you're exactly right. The coursework was the groundwork for teaching the course was the groundwork for writing this book. There really weren't too many books on this particular topic. And I decided when I stopped teaching at Central Michigan in 2017, I was going to write the definitive book that could be used in courses around the country. And I'm excited. The book is being adopted by University of Michigan and Penn State University for starters, so for their curriculum. So
That's
it's
fantastic.
great news. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Did you have any surprises in writing the book? Did anything serendipitous happen or surprising as you were writing?
I think, Karen, there were three big surprises. Number one, I learned more about this subject than any course I had ever taken. So by writing a book, you're doing research, you're constantly living, thinking it. So I learned a great deal. Number two, I was surprised that even at this late stage in life, and I'm in my 70s now, at this late stage, it improved my writing, speaking, and storytelling skills in an exponential manner. I really got good at it because I used things that I oftentimes used in the book. I think the third surprise was the difficulty I had, even after 26 books, in getting a major publisher to agree to publish this book. And I had rejection after rejection after rejection. And I say in the book, persistence is one of the keys to success. So I just kept moving forward. And one day I got a call from a small city called New York, New York, Productivity Press, which is a division of Taylor and Francis, a big
Oh, yes.
academic publisher. And they said, you know what, we do business type books, we do self-help books, we read your book, we love your book, we'd love to publish it. So stay the course is what I tell young people.
And it worked for you.
It
No,
sure did.
rejection is the big thing for writers. And
Yeah,
all it takes is one, and you found the one.
you're exactly right. Mhm.
Well, Barry, thank you for visiting with us today. Looking very much forward to seeing you at Book Fair on November 13th, and lots of good luck with the book.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Katz, also write as Karen Tintori, author of Unto the Daughters, and I am excited to be speaking today with Eric Bean, a fellow journalist. My bachelor's degree is in journalism, about his new book, Bias is All Around You, a handbook for inspecting social media and news stories. Something I think that all of us need to be a little more critically thinking about these days. Could you describe your book in one sentence for us?
Absolutely. If I had to describe my book in one sentence, I would say that it's a 57-page, beautifully illustrated book that teaches people from all walks of life how to separate fact from fiction and any type of published material that may come their way. And it's a very important topic these days because no matter what your education or your background is, information can fool anyone.
Would that include media, television media?
Absolutely. Yeah, we need to learn how to inspect or vet, if you will, information from all sources because all sources could contain some bias. We just have to be aware of what those biases may be.
What was your path to writing books?
Well, many, many years ago, I had approached the subject of writing. I found writing to be very therapeutic in all aspects of my life. But I really originally started, I was reading a magazine when I was a kid called Freshwater and Marine Aquarium magazine. And I kept on reading it through an adult. I used to have aquariums. I had an aquarium in my dorm at Grand Valley State University years and years ago, saltwater fish. And
Wow.
I noticed in very small print on the masthead of the publication, on the magazine, it says that we welcome your contributions and payment will be made at our existing rates. So back in the early 90s, I wrote my very first article that was sent to that aquarium magazine. And as soon as they published it, the writing bug had bit me.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah.
Do you have any special rituals, or how do you get in the zone to write?
Well, I think it's very important to write about something that you're passionate about. That will help you do a better job in terms of researching. Most of the types of things that I focus on are nonfiction. So you have to be really well read in the particular area that you want to write about. I have been a higher ed teacher for the past 25 years, as well as secondary education and elementary education. And so most of the books that I've written over the past 20 years are for teachers, as well as students, or might involve using technology in the classroom. So, but in order to get in the mood, you sort of have to find something that you believe is unique. You want to serve up information that people don't readily have access to. We all use social media. We all enjoy the benefits of it to keep up with our friends and family, our associates. But, what happened during the pandemic and during the 2020 election and much uncivil unrest, I noticed that many people in my social networks were sharing information that wasn't really valid information. I would say to somebody, you just shared a piece of information that you said was new information. I checked the date on it and it was 5 years old. And so, we need to do a better job. We all want to win an argument. And so typically what happens is we search for the first piece of information that comes along. That's called confirmation bias, or anchoring. We anchor to that first piece of information to help us win an argument, but we need to do a better job of looking at that piece of information. Is it an editorial? Does it have attribution? Does it have citations? So that's what happened. I was prompted in my own social networks. I was prompted. I said, enough is enough. We need to give people a tool to remember how to use information wisely, which includes critical thinking. But the book also goes into other aspects that people might not be familiar with. There's ways that you can judge the overall level of bias in any published piece of information by employing the Greek rhetorical styles, which we explain clearly in the book. And I have to thank my editor, Sherry Wexler, who did an amazing job helping us lay that out for people to actually put it under the magnifying glass so that people could understand it. We wanted a simple book. And then we talk about the common fallacies that any piece of information can be laden with. And then we also have to remind people about conflicts of interest, and to really explore the background of the authors. Does the background show that they have a subject matter expertise, or are they just editorializing? Does the background show that they may be involved in nefarious activities? And so, if we're going to share something in our social networks, that affects our reputation and who we are. So I think it's a very important topic today, because anybody could end up following a false cause or believe in a piece of information if they haven't really properly put that information to the test.
Eric, you put a lot of information into a small book. And I'm wondering, did you have writer's block when you were writing it? Did you have any surprises come along while you were writing it? Anything serendipitous happen?
Yeah, well, you know what? Actually, that's such a great question. It really, it was the Greek rhetorical styles that I could use as an acronym that people can readily identify with. that would allow them to think about the information. And 3 of those Greek rhetorical styles out of the 5 you can apply directly when you look at a piece of information and get the overall, just get a sense of the overall bias of a piece. And so that was sort of like the epiphany, if you will, that, with those styles. And then thankfully with my editor, we were able to shape that into something that can be easily digested. Is it low bias? Medium bias, high bias, extreme bias, and so forth. But the book is unique because there is we wanted a 1-page bias assessment form at the end of the book where you can score a piece of information. And by the way, it doesn't matter where the information comes from or where it resides. And then the other thing that had occurred to me after 15 to 20 years of teaching journalism, English composition, that all information can be boiled down to 7 different sources of biases. It doesn't mean that the biases are good or bad, but it means we need to be aware of what those 7 sources are and pinpoint the information down to those 7
Eric,
sources.
I'm sure people are going to want to speak to you during book fair in November. You've got a lot of information to offer. Eric Bean, author of Biases All Around You. Thank you very much. Looking
Very
forward
humbled
to
to be here, and thank you for allowing me to talk about the book today.
Glad to have you.
You bet.